We've got a double-sided system getting itself together, and this is just number one. Let's talk about things as we've got severe storms possible over the mid-south over the next few days, heavy snowfall potentially coming towards the back half of the system in the northeast, plus Arctic chill coming behind it with a secondary system. All the details and more in this video. Alright, there's a timeline in the description, and of course you can slide your way through this video if you want to get to a specific part. But let's start with the severe risk for your November 19th through your 20th. We've got the severe risk in eastern Oklahoma for your Sunday the 19th, which is tomorrow as I'm filming this, and then the Arklatex as well as the mid-south, really the lower Mississippi River Valley getting in on that risk as we go into our Monday and Monday night. So let's do the 3-day system timing, just the next few days with the European model. System getting going over the plains as we make our way in towards our Sunday evening and into our early Monday morning. Eventually here this becomes a more tightly packed low, and eventually this strengthens enough to where we can get a little bit of a severe line of storms here that might even go all the way on up towards places like Memphis, Tennessee, southeastern Missouri, and far southern Illinois, because the low pressure track has shifted just a bit further north from what we've been seeing yesterday with my video there. Now we're beginning to see the track shift just a little bit north, which of course brings the snowfall a little bit further north, maybe a more rainy system for some of you, but we'll talk about that in just a minute. Your available moisture for severe weather, that's going to be there. Dew points making their way on up in the 60s to close to 70, and just for context, dew point is essentially just talking about how much moisture you have in the air, and the higher the number is, the more moisture you have, and it's really uncommon to see 60s to near 70-degree dew points this time of the year. What's also uncommon to see is this type of severe weather setup with a very strong trough. We're going to see some wind shear, meaning winds are changing with height in the atmosphere. Basically, that being shortened and simplified for us, that just means that there's shifting wind speeds and shifting directions of those winds, which of course helps to bring in spin, and spin of course can result in tornadoes. So on my severe risk forecast, I've got it just a little bit further north than what we're seeing with the Storm Prediction Center, but for now I'm keeping it at a level 2 for us here into southeastern Arkansas, parts of northern Louisiana, as well as most of Mississippi, but of course far southwestern Tennessee getting included in on that as well. So we'll monitor that closely, as well as the tornado potential, which looks to be elevated with that. Now, the system, again, let's time this out further, transpiring into some mountain snowfall here as we make our way again towards the beginning of this system and back there into the Rockies. But again, let's play this out further as it makes its way eastward. Again, impacts for the Midwest with some rainfall there. I think the upper Midwest staying mostly dry with this system, especially if you look at the Euro model. Continuing to move eastward, maybe some severe thunderstorms even Tuesday into parts of the southeast and the Carolinas. We'll look at the potential for that, but overall that looks to be on the decrease in your severe weather risk after that Monday risk. Cooler air surging on in behind it, but there will be just enough cool air with a high pressure out in front of it that we could see some snowfall from parts of the Adirondacks in New York on over through Vermont, New Hampshire, maybe even starting off with some snow in Boston. Pretty much the entire state of Maine right now looking to see a pretty decent event of snowfall out of this, so we'll monitor that. Most of the rainfall looking to push off the coast of the mid-Atlantic as we go Tuesday night and towards your Wednesday. So this will impact holiday travel. There will be some gusty winds, maybe some delays, maybe even ground stops at airports. By the way, if you appreciate my content and the details I'm providing you, go ahead and please like and subscribe for me here. It really helps me out and gets this pushed out to more people. Now let's get back into the content with your GFS model, full system timeline. Again, the GFS, one thing I want to point out with this here, it even now is showing a more northerly low, which also brings that severe weather potential just a little bit further north on your Monday. So monitor that into parts of even, say, the far southwestern Ohio Valley there. Into areas of Illinois, into areas of Iowa, as well as parts of Wisconsin, maybe starting off with some lighter rain or snowfall turning into heavier rain into some of these areas. We could see some snowfall into parts of the Gulf of Michigan, as well as parts of the Northeast with this system. Once again, as we're looking at that GFS possibility, yes, the potential for maybe a few severe storms into Georgia and the Carolinas, and back on down into the panhandle of Florida Tuesday night. So that doesn't really differ from the Euro. There's not much differing from the Euro now, which is good. We're getting a little bit more agreement. But of course, this has even shifted from yesterday, so we're not set in stone quite yet. The GFS showing more snowfall, again, once again for you there in Maine. One of the main areas that is a little bit different, though, is that it's showing maybe just a little bit more snowfall there in the Great Lakes. Now, in terms of your rainfall, this is the Weather Prediction Center's rainfall forecast, which averages out all the models. A solid swath of 1 to 2 inches of rain for us here, coming out of the Central Plains into parts of Louisiana, as well as the southeast, moving on up the New England coastline. Now, remember, in some of these areas where it looks like it's falling as rain, might be falling as snow. In fact, let's go ahead and hop right on over to the snowfall totals for us here now. With your GFS model snowfall outlook, you can see this is through November 23rd. And we're looking at, again, some snowfall, maybe a brief, quick, heavier snowfall event of maybe half a foot for us there into parts of southern Wisconsin. I think that's a little bit of a stretch with the GFS there, but that's a difference we're seeing. Parts of the Gulf of Michigan, and especially the UP of Michigan, getting in on this as well. And then, of course, northeastern parts of the northeastern region getting in on very hefty snowfall, especially there in Maine. The Mountain West accumulating with some snow as well. And then shifting on over to the European model side of things, this is what you're looking at with that. You're looking at the potential for a little bit less snowfall here, but a good bit. It's still half a foot into parts of the Adirondacks, places like Mount Washington getting maybe up to a foot of snowfall, and more snow as well on up into parts of Maine. And then again, the spotty snowfall in the higher terrain back there in the Mountain West. But again, the difference that we're looking at with the Euro and the GFS is the amount of snowfall there in the Great Lakes with pretty much nothing from the Euro. So the system hotspots will be the snow potential there over the northern part of the system, and really even Wisconsin getting in on some of this, even though that's not shown due to the difference there. And then, of course, the severe side of things in the mid-south. Those are the system hotspots that I'm watching with this particular winter storm. Now, as we move things on over towards the temperature side of things, this is your temperature anomalies. And I want to show you an Arctic blast that could come in actually behind this system from a second system, yes. So you might have issues traveling to where you're going for Thanksgiving, and then you might be dealing with issues on the way home as well, depending on when you're doing so, or if you are traveling. This might definitely affect you in both ways. We're looking at the cooler air, sure, funneling in maybe 5 to 10 degrees below average behind this initial front, but it's this secondary system now that we're going to begin to talk about here in just moments. 10, 20, 30 degrees below average over the plains, that's going to bring in a shot of snow over even parts of the central, maybe even the southern plains towards the back half of your Thanksgiving weekend. And look at how that cool air moves eastward. This could bring the entire country into below average readings by the time we make our way towards almost the end of November. So I know this is just a little bit far out, 8 to 10 days. But this looks pretty significant, and the models are really beginning to pick up on this, both the Euro and the GFS, which is why the Climate Prediction Center is already outlining this area. Please stay tuned for that, because that could also increase the risk of winter storms. Speaking of winter storms, here's the one that could be bringing in that cooler air in the Arctic blast particularly. First of all, maybe some El Nino, once again, the El Nino influence building over the Gulf Coast by the time we make our way towards Friday the 24th. We're looking at maybe some rainfall there in the panhandle of Florida. And then back on over into the Mountain West, what looks like a pretty quiet little light snow event building over there. But this will add up some totals as it makes its way into Nebraska, Kansas, maybe even some heavier snow, some blowing snow over these areas as we make our way in towards our early Saturday the 25th. Again, people are traveling, they're leaving family that they may have been seeing during Thanksgiving. So this is really important to keep an eye on. A system moving up the East Coast now with that El Nino influence through the Carolinas on up into Virginia, the Mid-Atlantic, and heading that way. So my point with showing you all these systems is not to scare you. These aren't as serious as they may look, but you just need to be planning around them and planning accordingly, because there could definitely be some disruptions to your plans, and this system could bring some snowfall sure enough into the Great Lakes. In fact, we could even see two systems with the second possibility that I'm showing you right now, and then look towards the back half of November. If we were to get enough of that cool air to spill on in, we could see a snow event in the mid-south by the end of November with enough cool air there, and with the El Nino influence keeping precipitation above average. Something to watch in the European model. Really interesting for jumping on that early. But overall, it looks like cold, high pressure moving in by the end of the month. So let's look at the surface temperatures with the European model. This is the last little graphic I'm going to be showing you here. You can see temperatures with this first front. Again, pretty tame. We're going to see cold temperatures below freezing in the mornings over the northern, maybe fourth of the country. But pretty much everyone else that I'm getting ready to circle here, 40s, 50s. Even behind that system, we're going to warm back up pretty quickly. So a pretty quick rebound after this first winter storm. But here we go towards the middle to back half of that Thanksgiving weekend, and look at how these freezing temperatures begin to form a line over the western 2/3 of the country. We've got negative teens here into parts of Wyoming, into parts of the Rockies there west of Denver. This is significant cold over this region that needs to be monitored very closely. I know I've said monitored closely very many times in this video, and we'll continue to see 20s push eastward even as we make our way towards the Tuesday the 28th time frame. So again, this is a long way out, but if you want to keep staying updated, go ahead and like, subscribe, and you can leave any comments and questions you have down below. Some of the things that might be further out I might not be able to answer, but I'm going to answer all your questions within reason down below, so go ahead and do that. I always reply within a few hours. Here are the credits, and thank you so much to everyone who's watching, and have a great day.
One nation weather.